Oh. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Ramo Rajamani Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Bihata Nishacharachamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha. Ramannasti Parayanam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmyaham Rame Chittalaya Sada Bhavatu Me Bho Rama Mamuddhara. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Hari Om, everyone. In our life, there are many things that we feel blessed about. We feel blessings of Bhagwan is there on us in plenty. Having a good health is a great blessing. Having a beautiful mind, a pure mind, a calm mind is a great blessing from Bhagwan. Having a good and pleasant environment around us, good family relationships, all of that is Bhagwan's blessings. But the culmination of all these blessings, the final blessing that we can seek and appreciate if we have it from Bhagwan, is a desire for knowing the truth. Knowing the nature of Bhagwan and knowing what is our true nature. If that desire comes, he says that is the greatest blessing. And the culmination of that desire is in actually knowing the truth and in owning it up for ourselves. This is the first shloka that Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji writes in Dhanyashtakam. 8 verses on blessedness. Who is the one who is blessed? He says the one who has this absolute knowledge of the truth, knowledge of his nature as akarta, but he can remember this even during vyavahara. He says that person is blessed. Such knowledge is worth striving for. Such knowledge is what we should aim for in life. He says, Tadjnanam prashamakaram yadindriyanam. This knowledge is so great and it is worth to be sought because it will give us contentment. It will quieten our sense organs, quieten our mind. Tadjneyam yadupanishad sunishchitarthaha. That alone is worth to be known, which is the essence of all Upanishads. Te dhanya bhuvi paramartha nishchiteyaha. Those people are blessed who can hold on to this knowledge even while they are doing their iha. Iha means karma. While doing karma, while they are engaged in their daily life, they are able to hold on to this knowledge that I am akarta, I am abhokta. What Bhagwan told Arjuna is tasmad yudhyasva bharata, panashino aprameyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. Knowing this truth, holding on to this knowledge, do what you have to do. Sheshastu brahmanilaye paribhramantaha. Last line of that shloka is, if we don't hold on to this knowledge, we will be lost in this maze of samsara. You know how a maze is? He says, brahmanilaya it is. Everywhere I go, it looks like there is a way out, but when I go there, I hit a end. This knowledge is what Bhagwan Krishna is giving Arjuna right now and to all of us. That you are akarta and abhokta. Be blessed. Have a healthy body to do sadhana. Put forth effort for a beautiful mind. Let all our sambandha that we are having be very pure. But the culmination of all of this is in this Brahma Jijnasa. That more and more I should be able to hold on to this truth. This was the essence of the 21st verse. So 21st and 22nd we will chant together. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enamajam avyayam katham sapurushah partha kam ghatayati hantikam vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grunhati naro parani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani sanyati navani dehi. Now these verses are, Bhagwan is giving pravachan. You know, he is giving his talk to Arjuna. So he is making one point, elaborating it more, again making another point. But the main essence of all these verses are that this Atman consciousness is nirvikara. It does not undergo any modification, and that consciousness you are. And because I am that consciousness, I cannot be karta, because kartrutva, doership needs modification, and bhoktrutva also needs modification. Which is one who has understood nature of Atman in this way, how can that person think of himself as doer or experiencer? Then comes an example that Bhagwan is giving. He says, just as a person discards clothes that are worn out or it has served its purpose, because not all the time worn out clothes only are removed. End of the day, clothes have served their purpose, person discards them and takes on new clothes. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grunhati naraha aparani. So just as person discards used clothes and takes on new clothes, there is no change in the person. Taking and dropping of clothes does not bring about any change in the person. In the same way, taking and dropping off this physical body does not bring any change in Atman. Tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani sanyati navani dehi. Second line. In the same way, taking and dropping of bodies does not bring about any change in this Atman. But you look at the word that Bhagwan has used, Dehi, he says. Atma's name here is Dehi. That is the precision or the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. Don't look for Atman somewhere else. Right in this Deha it is available. Just let go of those conditionings, understand the nature of Atman, understand nature of conditioning, and with this knowledge, we'll be able to own a pure true nature. So this Atman also takes up and drops new bodies, not by itself. It is all adhyastha sambandha. Means only with conditioning, it gets this title of taking and dropping of bodies. Okay, that also we should keep in mind. So that example is given to help illustrate this point, that taking and dropping of physical body does not affect Atma. So now there are some similarities that you can extract from this example and some dissimilarities that we should know. Both are important so that we can understand the main topic. And example will help us get clarity about this understanding. What is the main topic? That Atma is nirvikara. And taking and dropping of bodies does not affect Atma. Somebody says, you gave this example of taking up new clothes and giving up old clothes. He says, body, I don't have choice, unlike in the case of clothes. I can choose from my wardrobe which one I want. I can match it also. I can have matching choice. But in terms of body, does Atman have a choice which body it is going to associate with, which body it is not going to associate with? He said no. That is the dissimilarity in the example. Taking and dropping off or taking up of new body is determined purely based upon the cash of karma. Wealth of karma, if you want to call. Just like for us to get a new cloth, you need wealth of money. To get a new body, the type of body, we need wealth of karma. So prarabdha karma, what we call, that becomes responsible for that. Now another thing somebody might ask, okay, you gave this example of wearing clothes and dropping them. I don't feel sad when I let go of these clothes and I take new pair of clothes. You say, why do I feel sad when I have to let go of this body? And even if I know that I'm going to take a new body, why do I feel so sad? So that sadness is because in the case of clothes, I know I am not the cloth. But in the case of body, what has happened is I have identified so much with the body, I think I am this body. You see, that is why that sorrow is there. In Vedanta, this is technically called as abhinivesha. Means I have entered somewhere so much where I am not even supposed to. Just like, small children also, sometimes if they like the clothes that they're wearing, they don't like to take it off. Especially if they have dressed up as something in some competition or something. You become a king and you have worn the clothes of a king. You try, okay, now competition is over. You have to get back in your regular clothes. They don't, they sometimes cry also. You said this avidya is like that. Ignorance is like that. If I think I am this body, then that sorrow is more. Mahatmas have a very unique way of conveying these points. And I think this must be a conversation between Janak Maharaj and Ashtavakraji. If you read Ashtavakra Gita, Janak Maharaj scolds Ashtavakraji scolds Janak Maharaj in many places. Not to actually scold him, but to scold all of us. This same verse he must have chanted, Vasam Sijirnani Yatha Vihaya. And Janak Maharaj must have asked a question, same question, why is it that we feel so sad when we have to let go of this body. So then this Rishi who was there, he said it's because you are too attached to your robes. You see the way that you are wearing your clothes, and he was a king, right? So all nicely dressed, tightly, worn attire, and so heavy, everything which is there. He said you are so tightly bound to this robe that if I tell you that you have to change it and get into some other robe, you will feel sad about it. He said, look at me, Janak Maharaj, Ashtavakra is saying, huh? Look at me. I just have Angavastram. Even today, some Mahatmas, they say they never eat with a stitched cloth. Means if you are wearing stitched clothes, they will not sit down to eat, or their nishtha is such that they don't wear stitched clothes at all. Only that cloth which doesn't have any silai. Silai means stitching. So it's a reminder to say that this body is also another robe. Right? So you just have to wrap it around and just do your work. This is also the point that we saw in the description of Lord Shiva in our Ramayana class. Jogi Jatila Akama Mana Nagana Amangala Vesha. Lord Shiva's description is he is Nagana and he is Amangala Vesha. Amangala Vesha means what? One who has understood that this body is Amangala. One who has known that I am this Atman and this body is another Vesha, another costume that I have picked up. I am unaffected by modifications in this body. Jogi Jatala Akama Mana Nagana Amangala Vesha. It is the same idea, Vasam Sijirnani Yatha Vihaya. Another perspective, for us to understand this better, is we should go to Bhagavatam. In Bhagavatam, Bhagwan does Vastraharana Leela. Right? He takes away the clothes of his devotees, all the gopis. That Vastra is symbolic of Panchakoshas. And whenever somebody does Varanam, Varanam is what? Exclusive choice. Exclusive commitment that Bhagwan, I want you and you alone. Devotional text, that is how it will be put. Here it is Varanam of knowing Atman. Devotional text, it is Varanam of Bhagwan Krishna. The same thing put in a different way. This is one who does Varanam, of that person, Bhagwan does Haranam. Haranam means taking away. What will he take away? He will take away our identity with this Panchakoshas. What is Panchakosha? Tattvabodha class or Atmabodha. But the predominant kosha, the predominant attachment that we have is of this physical body. So that is this Vastram that Bhagwan took away. He says, if you have chosen me, then it is my responsibility. I will take away those obstacles, those pratibandhas which are there in you owning up my nature. And once knowledge takes place, he says that I will give it back to you. So Vastram he gives back. Panchakosha also, nothing happens to them literally. But devotion to Bhagwan takes away that attachment which is there, that abhimana which is there in these Panchakoshas. So that is the beauty of different aspects, which are mentioned in this example, that taking and dropping off clothes does not bring about any change in the person. In the same way, taking and dropping off this physical body does not bring about in any change in Atman, which is Nirvikara. So now there is another perspective that Bhagwan is giving now. And what Bhagwan wants us is, whatever is Bhagwan's understanding about ourselves, our true nature, it should become our understanding about ourselves. Right? Whatever is Bhagwan's understanding, that should become my understanding. One of the things that I generally feel about myself is insecurity. And what is that insecurity? Insecurity is something is going to happen to me. Or what if something happens to me? And sometimes this is a very unknown anxiety. We don't even know where it is coming from. But sometimes it is more specifically defined. Either it is because of some reason that I am anxious and that is causing fear. And that fear is fear of destruction. Destruction also becomes a technical word sometimes. It is fear of something uncertain. So that fear Bhagwan wants to remove over here. He says anything and everything that happens is only at body level. You as that pure consciousness is unaffected by any of these sources of destruction. And our Mahatmas, you call our Bhagwan, is so precise in his thinking. He says destruction from outside can happen only because of 4 things. What are those 4 things? We will see now. There is no 5th thing that can happen from outside. And none of those things can affect Atman. That he is going to say now. 23rd verse. Nainam chindanti shastrani. Nainam chindanti shastrani. Nainam dahati pavakah. Nainam dahati pavakah. Nachainam kledayantyapah. न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापः न शोषयति मारुतः न शोषयति मारुतः नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापः न शोषयति मारुतः. Okay, only 4 sources of destruction. And he's summarizing this in this verse. He says one is destruction can happen because of earth element. And that is represented by shastrani. Whatever weapons you can think of, all of it are made from earth only. He says first source of destruction is from earth element as weapon. But this Atma Tattva, enam Atma Tattvam, Shastrani na chindanti. This Atman is that which cannot be cleaved or affected by weapons. Why is that? This is because Atman is the substratum. If you want to use a simpler way, it is the cause of earth. From Atman alone, space has come. From space alone, air has come. From air, fire. From fire, water. From water, earth element. So this is our Srishti Prakriya, which is described in Upanishad. So he says earth is a result of Atma. It has come from consciousness. This is whatever is an effect, it cannot harm the cause. Okay, so that is one way of looking at this. So with weapons, it cannot be affected. Nainam dahati pavakaha. It cannot be burnt by fire. Fire is also another element. So whatever destruction that we see, One of the way of destruction is through fire. Like camphor you take, right? How does the camphor get destroyed? It is, fire can destroy that camphor. Nainam dahati pavakaha. Nacha enam kledayanti apaha. Another way of destruction is through humidity, through water, right? The way that water element will destroy something is it can make it moist and it can destroy it. So he says this Atman cannot be destroyed even by that. Nasho shayati marutaha. Another way of destruction is by drying out the humidity, by drying out moisture from anything. If that happens, then that thing gets destroyed. So water or the air element destroys in this way. Air will soak out the humidity, and with that a thing will get destroyed. He says, okay, right now don't go to Atma. Okay, if it is too high, just go to space element. None of these four things can touch even space. Apply that. Weapons cannot affect space. You might, no matter how much you do your, what is it called? Something they do, right? That fencing. No matter how much of that fencing thing you do, nothing happens to space. Nainam dahati pavakaha. Space does not get burnt by fire. Space does not get wet by water. Air can get wet. Space does not get wet. And space also does not get affected by air. Means the fragrance which is there in the air or any other smell does not affect the space. He says the fifth element, which is part of this world, that only does not get affected by these four things. How can Atman, which is the cause of space also, get affected by these four things? He says that is why Atman is unaffected by any of these things. So what is the reason because of which I am unaffected by these things? He says because you are, one is you are without any parts, you are partless. Consciousness is partless. So that is why none of these things can affect it. Second reason is it is the cause of all these things. So the effects cannot come back and affect this consciousness. Generally, we never have this technical question that I am going to get destroyed or things like that, But what should happen is, it should make us fearless. It doesn't mean that I should not take care of this body. If I have to take a vaccine, I have to take it. But I should also remember that there can be a stage where nothing works. There can be a stage where nothing works at the level of protecting this physical body. I have tried everything, but at level of physical body, nothing is working. So then this knowledge should come and save me and say, I am not this physical body. I am that consciousness whom nothing can affect. That is the applied side of this statement. Right? That knowledge should come and save me. That whenever there is sorrow coming from any of, either gross body in particular, so there I should use this knowledge. Those of you who might have seen Upanishad Ganga, the 5th and the 6th episode is about Dharashikho. He was a great scholar of Vedanta in the Mughal Empire. I think he was son of Aurangzeb or somebody. And He was very well read. I think he also translated the Vedas into Persian language. And he gets imprisoned, and something happens. That Aurangzeb and they don't get along well together. And then he has to go a lot of pain at physical body level. I don't know if he actually said it, but in Upanishad Ganga, this verse is quoted. Darashiko says this, Nainam chindanti shastrani, Nainam dahati pavakaha. What should I be afraid of? But we should understand it in the right perspective. That whatever has to be done at body level, we will still do it. But we should remember there can be a time when nothing is working. So there this knowledge should come and save us. Then Bhagwan, his pravachan is going on, right? So he's just presenting the same thing in a different form now. And he is now concluding this topic. This verse and the next verse he will conclude. Achedyo yamadahyoyam Achedyo yamadahyoyam Akledyo shosya evacha Akledyo shosya evacha Nitya sarvagatasthānuhu Nitya sarvagatasthānuhu Achaloyam sanatanaha Achaloyam sanatanaha Achedyo yamadahyoyam Akledyo shosya evacha Nitya sarvagatasthānuhu Achaloyam sanatanaha. These are all meditation verses, pointers for meditation. Any verse we can take and just sit down and reflect upon it. Eyes closed or eyes open, both are okay, as long as thoughts are about these ideas. So Bhagwan is telling Arjuna now. Now I explained to you how these four things cannot affect even space, what to talk about Atman. So Arjuna, the conclusion is, this Atma Tattva is Achedya. It cannot be cut. Adahya. It cannot be burnt. Akledya. It cannot be destroyed through humidity by wetting it. Ashoshya. It cannot be dried also. That is this Atma Tattva. Bhagwan, can you tell me some more? One of the quality of student of Vedanta is this. You should not get tired about nature of Atman because it is your nature. We never get tired about hearing about our glory, right? You say, you are so good, you are this and that and everything. You say, okay, tell more, tell more. So Bhagwan is telling about our true glory. All other glory is about ahankara or about this physical body, which is there today. No guarantee it will be there tomorrow. But this true glory, no matter which kalpa it is, which cycle of creation it is, it will remain the same. This Atma Tattva is Nitya. Arjuna must have, his face must have brightened. He said, Bhagwan, you said this in the previous verse, right? I can make that cross connection now. I even participated in Gita chanting Yajna. So now I know all the verses to read or I have some of it memorized. This seems like a very familiar shloka before. Look at the next word, Sarvagataha. This same consciousness is all pervading. So precisely that was the definition of Nitya Vastu. Avinashitu tadvidhi yena sarvam idam tatam. A thing can be called as Avinashi only if it is all pervading. It should be an infinite thing. Only that thing will be Nitya. It will be indestructible. Okay, so this particular phrase, you match it back with, I think 17th verse it was. Avinashitu tadvidhi yena sarvam idam tatam. It is not conditioned by anything. It is Nitya. And it is all pervading. So if it is all pervading, It does not have to come and go anywhere, right? That is why it is achalaha. Chalanam can be there only if it is not there in some place, right? Like right now, I am not here, or I am here, I am not there in Fremont. So if I have to go to Fremont, I have to do Chalanam. But what will space say? Is I am here in San Jose also, I am there in Fremont also. So space is achalaha. Example, Atman is there everywhere. It is all pervading. That is why it is achalaha. That which is achala will become sthanu. It is stability itself. Right? Sthanu means what? Like, you have a tree which has given up all the leaves. There are no moving parts there. Only the trunk is remaining. Dry tree, let us say. That is called as sthanu. Like a post. In that post, you see a ghost, right? Sthanu Purusha Nyaya is there in Vedanta. So that stability, we should not take the dryness aspect. Brahman is not dry like that tree. Brahman is Ananda Swarupa, but the example that we should match is, it is stability itself. Achaloyam sanatanaha. Sanatanaha means it is eternal. There was never a time that this absolute truth was absent. Who are we talking about? He said, this is my nature. Now I should work on myself. We should not just keep repeating that I am sthanu, I am achala, I am sanatana. Bhagavan is asking us, what is your opinion about yourself? I might have one opinion now, which is okay. I might say I am this body, I am this mind. This is Bhagavan says, I want you to match your understanding with my understanding now. He said, do I feel that I am sarvagataha? Or do I know myself to be sarvagataha? Do I know myself to be ever calm, ever of the nature of achalaha? He says, no, my mind is racing. He said, that is your mind. You are not the mind. I am running. He says, your body is running. So even while you are doing those actions, knowledge should be that I am this consciousness which is unchanging. Bhagavan is going to elaborate more. He is just second chapter, right, of Bhagavad Gita. But he is telling us, don't stop in between and don't be content on your spiritual journey. That can also be there in a sadhaka, that we might feel, oh, I've understood everything. Or, I have reached where I have to reach. This is, reaching is if I can own up these qualities as my nature. For that, a lot of elaboration is there. We can go slow. So this word sanatanaha, when you hear, you will remember something about Sanatana Dharma. And there was a question last time that is there any precise translation of the word dharma in English? Because generally what we say dharma as religion. Is there a word called as religion in Vedanta or in Bhagavad Gita in particular? In our understanding, dharma means that which is eternal and that which is of the nature of Vedas. Vedokta dharma, right? Whenever we say dharma, we say it is Vedokta. Now our question should be, did Vedas come into being at certain time or are they eternal? We say Vedas are eternal. In Sanatan Dharma, creation is eternal, means it is anadi, it is beginningless. It has been eternally there, and Vedas have also been eternally there. Meaning what? Sanatana Dharma, that Sanatana word is for that reason. That this Dharma which talks about Abhyudaya and Nishreyasa, how to get material prosperity, inner prosperity, Abhyudaya it talks about. It also talks about Nishreyasa, how to take the next step now. Abhyudaya is not my only step, like what we saw in the beginning of the class today, right? Dhanya, I can feel blessed about so many things, but that should culminate in my next step, which is about Nishreyasa. So when we say dharma, dharma is that which talks about both these aspects, and it is eternal. It talks about Abhyudaya, it talks about Nishreyasa. Now, what is the ritualistic side of it, or the other things that we follow in our Sanatan Dharma, what we otherwise call as Hindu Dharma? You see, that is an expression of this knowledge. Like, let us say you come to ashram. So my expression of expressing my gratitude for you coming is by, say, by doing Hari Om, or by saying Namaste. Now that is a physical action that I'm doing, but that action is not independent. It is rooted in my expression of that gratitude. The feeling that I have in myself, that I will express it as an action. So that is how dharma translates into a religion. So that expression could be in different way for different people. But main point we should note is, purpose of all of that is to purify my mind, to make sure that my thoughts are in line with my actions, and such a mind should conduct spiritual inquiry. So now Bhagwan is concluding the topic. You see, whenever you write a report, right, executive summary is there, introduction is there, and finally you write conclusion. In the conclusion, you don't write any new thing. Better we not write any new thing. It is the same thing put in a different way. And that is the beauty of the author, right? How you are presenting the same idea differently. So Bhagwan is now concluding this topic. He says, what is true Sankhya Buddhi, with which the pratigna that I made in the first 11th verse, Nanu Shochanti Panditaha, that he is concluding over here now. 25th verse we'll chant. Avyaktoyam achintyoyam, avyaktoyam achintyoyam, avikaryoyam uchyate, avikaryoyam uchyate, tasmadevam viditvainam, tasmadevam viditvainam, nanushocitumarhasi, nanushocitumarhasi, avyaktoyam achintyoyam, avikaryoyam uchyate, tasmadevam viditvainam, nanushocitumarhasi. More elaboration we will see in the next class. Bhagwan is just summarizing now that this Atma Tattva is avyakta. It is avyakta, it is unmanifest, but it is not unknown. It is not ajnata, it is very well known. It is achintya, because it is not perceptible through our eyes or other sense organs. There is no data that you can gather and then analyze. Right? So it is achintya. It is avikari, non-changing, non-modifying. Avikarihi, avikaryaha, ayam uchyate. Ayam, who are these ayam? He says tattvadarshibhihi. Those who are seers of the truth, they have understood themselves to be in this way. Tasmat, therefore, having known this, O Arjuna, having known Atman in this way, having known your nature in this way, nanushochitum arhasi. There is no reason, or it is not appropriate that you should do shoka, that you should grieve. So many pointers were there. First is, if you take from the standpoint of, there are others who are there around me. He says, There is no other. This Atma Tattva is non-dual in that this body and all other shariras are appearing. So if you know it in that way, then there is no shoka. If you have shoka about, I'm going to do some action. So he says, Kartrutva itself is not possible in you. So that's why don't do any shoka. You are not bhokta, not recipient of results of action. So if you are worried about what will be the result of action, he says, don't do shoka even for that. Having understood this, hold on to your swadharma and keep doing the same things that you have been doing before. Don't change your inherent swabhava now. What he otherwise said is, Tasmad yudhyasva bharata. Let things go on as they have been going on. But hold on to dharma. More we will see in the next class. Now what Bhagavan is doing is, Upadesha of Bhagavad Gita is done. 18 chapters are there, but what main teaching Bhagavan has to give, he has completed now. 25th verse, everything is completed. Now Bhagavan, out of his compassion, he says, let us take your standpoint. Let us say, you think about yourself as this body or this jiva. Picking that thread, he says, even if you consider in that way, this much shoka is not appropriate. Means you can grieve, but don't grieve this much, that your hands are trembling and you are throwing away your Gandiva, you want to run away. He says that much shoka is not appropriate. So that segue we will see in the next session. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So we'll take some questions that were there from last time. What continues after body is dropped? Is it the subtle body? If it is a subtle body, then how does it sustain even after grossified form is dropped? As it is also of material cause. Yes. What makes this, subtle body go from one place to another? This is a very technical topic, which I will just mention in brief. More elaboration we'll see when we study those texts. This elaboration comes in Bhagavatam in the 10th canto, where different nyayas are given, maxims, are given of how this jiva goes from one sharira to another sharira. Vasudevji is giving this teaching. So one nyaya is called as Truna Jaluka Nyaya. Truna Jaluka means what? Just like, Truna, you can say as any worm. If it has to go from one leaf or one blade of grass to another blade of grass, it does not leave the previous one until it has found the next one. Means it will hold on to the next one and then let go of previous one. So this is called as Truna Jaluka Nyaya. Another name of this is called as Pada Vinyasa Nyaya. Just like when you're walking, one pada if you have to keep in front, you don't let go of the previous one until you have kept your next foot firm. So why are we discussing all this? Because jiva transmigrates in the same way. From one stula sharira to go to another stula sharira, he said the next invitation has already come. And just as this Truna Jaluka, how it is going, that worm, in the same way, this jiva transmigrates. But the question is, what happens in between? How does this subtle body go? You see, it does not go in the way that they show in movies, There is a flame that comes and then it goes like this. subtle body actually doesn't travel in space. Okay, that is one way of thinking in that way. Subtle body and causal body, they travel together. That also has a name, but we won't go too much into that. Subtle body and causal body, they travel together. And just like in dream, we get a body to experience different things in dream. He said in the same way, a temporary sharira is available for this jiva to transmigrate. And for that jiva to get good destination, to get its good next physical body, or wherever that destination is, that is why Shraddha karma is done. So that we had seen in end of first chapter also, Lupta Pindodaka Kriyaha. When that phrase came, we had seen this portion. That this is a system given to us by Shastra. And we should do those rituals with lot of Shraddha. Right? So that this jiva will go to the next destination and it will be a pleasant journey for that jiva. I think this much is enough. But how does the subtle body transmigrate? It gets a sharira, just like in dream, even without this physical body, we get different body, right? To experience different things in that dream world. All right. I am in a stage of my life where I have worldly goals. Worldly goals. I aspire for a promotion and want to earn well. But Vedanta also interests me, and I like attending satsangs. How can I align my career goal with my spiritual goal? Good. What I like about this question is the sadhaka is not trying to philosophize desire. Means what? If I have a desire, I should own it up upfront. If I'm seeking promotion, I should say that is what is there right now. That desire is there. Not try to philosophize it and say, Bhagwan Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, you should do this, you should do that. He says, no, desire is there and I accept it. And desire of this kind is not criticized in our Shastra. There are some things which we can do to integrate, our personality and these goals that we might be having. And the first thing is, in fulfilling that desire, I should seek support of Bhagwan. If I want a promotion, I will work hard, but then I will say that Bhagwan, now I seek your grace. While working hard, I did my best, remembering you. Now the result has to come. There also may your grace prevail. And Bhagwan gives. That we should try it for ourselves and see. Ask a worldly thing, but be very honest in that process. Develop that kind of sambandha with Bhagwan. And while doing this process, while doing my hard work or whatever I have to do, he says, in that, hold on to dharma. If there is a pressure to cut corners anywhere on my side, because I have that desire, I want to cut any corners. So there it is said, don't do that. If you really put forth your effort, do your karma sincerely, it is a law of nature that result will not be denied from you. That is not your responsibility, that is Bhagwan's responsibility. Because he is karma phaladata, he will make sure that appropriate result of your hard work is given to you. This also, we should not just take and keep repeating this because Bhagwan is saying, he said, try it out and see. Right? Work sincerely, invoke Bhagwan's grace. Become a Artharthi Bhakta. 4 types of devotees are there, right? One is Artharthi. Artharthi means what? Somebody who wants something from the world, But he's, in addition to his effort, he's not seeking any other support. He's seeking support only of Bhagwan. And in that, gradually what will happen is some inner purity will start coming. I will start feeling that I can keep doing this work and do other things, but if I have that kind of Shraddha in Bhagwan, my mind is more clear. I can live a good life. I can take more clearer decisions I can take. And then it is Bhagwan's responsibility to guide us on the right path. Another thing we should be careful is, because that other part of the question was, Vedanta also interests me and I like attending satsangs. So to have that interest also, a lot of our previous punya karmas are needed. Right? To whatever extent that interest has come, he said, protect it well. Even if I am working hard and having other goals, don't let go of satsang. Don't let go of sadhana, because they're not divorced to each other. They will integrate our personality. Whatever we hear in satsang, it will help us relate with work in the right perspective, not getting carried away in some or the other direction. So that is good. And I think that is how Bhagwan explains Artharthi Bhakta. It is the first step in our spiritual path, not philosophizing desires that we have, accepting it upfront. It is there in me, and I will seek Bhagwan's help to fulfill it. Okay. All right. Hari Om, everyone.